Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben, and in today's video, we'll be looking at everything I plan to read for the month of November. I've been trying my best to keep my novel selection for each month at about 7 books or so. That seems to be about what I'm able to handle in a month, given work and kids, all my other responsibilities. Last month and the month before, I think it was about 7 books that I was able to get through between the physical books and audiobooks. November is a little bit different because we have the Thanksgiving break where I will have a week off from work, and hopefully that means I can get through a couple more titles. So this TBR is a little bit more ambitious than previous months, and hopefully I'm able to get through a good number of these titles. We're getting close to the end of the year. There's going to be a mix here of some books that I've had on previous months' TBRs that I just wasn't able to get to. But overall, I feel like I'm doing a good job getting through my TBR each month. And so we do have a number of new titles for this month that I'm excited to dive into, including a new Sanderson book and a new Barnes & Noble YA book club book. Let's go ahead and dive into what I plan on reading for November. We'll start off with Sylvain Naval's Sleeping Giants. Now this one I'm already 2/3 of the way through. So far I'm really digging it. It's kind of a sci-fi procedural mystery thriller. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to end up falling as far as genre goes, other than to say that it's sci-fi. But it follows a number of characters, this kind of paramilitary group going around finding these giant artifacts, this giant robot that is starting to unearth itself across the globe, and just the mystery of what that robot is, what its purpose is very intriguing. Has had a good focus on the characters and their relationships and their struggles. I also really like the way that this is presented. We have some excerpts here that are interviews, some that are journal entries, so it's not quite mixed media, but it has a number of unconventional writing styles that I'm not used to seeing, and at least initially was giving me Magnus Archives vibes, which I really appreciated. The next book I will tackle after Sleeping Giants is going to be Curious Tides, the latest Barnes & Noble YA book club title. It is over 500 pages, which is on the lengthier side for novels that I'm currently reading. Generally, I'm getting around 250 to 350 pages, and so this is considerably longer. I find the Barnes & Noble Book Club another easy entry into keeping on top of YA releases, which is not something I'm able to keep track of on my own. So the Fairyloot boxes help with getting me new titles, and checking out the Barnes & Noble Book Club helps. Other than knowing that this deals with magic and a magical school, I don't know too terribly much about it, and I kind of like going in a little blind on some of these titles just to not anticipate, especially with the YA genre, not to anticipate what's going to happen or how the story is going to unfold. While we are discussing the Barnes & Noble YA book club, Caraval was on that list, I think last year or possibly even the year before. So this is an older title on their YA book list. This is also something that a student recommended to me as something they really enjoyed. And so I've been meaning to get to it and just haven't gotten around to it yet. It was on my TBR for September. That month ended up being a little bit too full with trying to do the, trying to balance too many book challenges. So I'm giving it another attempt this month, and hopefully this will be another, I know this is a fantasy setting as well. hopefully it'll be one that gives me vibes like Night Circus. My immediate thought when I read the synopsis of it, and I really love Night Circus, so hopefully this will give me those same feelings. So I'm really looking forward to this one as well. From the YA book club to the Fairyloot boxes, I have 2 titles that I got as part of Fairyloot. I've talked already about The Bonesmith, kind of a darker fantasy genre. I'm hoping that this gives me similar vibes to Gideon the Ninth, which I was able to read last month. And I felt like those 2 stories with their focus on like darker magic and necromancy felt too similar. That's why I didn't immediately jump into reading this after finishing Gideon. So hopefully with a little bit of a break in between, I'll be able to get to this one this month. I also received The Forest Grimm just yesterday, actually, and it's about a dark forest that has some connection to fairy tale stories and fairy tale lore. I really enjoy the dark forest, especially like sentient dark forest subgenre, which is like a really niche thing. Stories like Luca and the Night Forest and Uprooted by Naomi Novik. So I'm hoping that this book also gives me those kind of vibes. Certainly the cover is giving me that kind of feeling. And so, again, I'm hoping that the book follows through with that promise. I have the latest Brandon Sanderson secret project book called The Sunlit Man. This one, as far as I can tell off my BookTube subscriptions, is an excellent read. Daniel Green was not subtle when he released his video saying that this was like a sleeper banger hit. And so this is one that I don't know much about it going in, and I don't plan on looking too much into it. I have been trying my best with the secret project books to hold back as long as possible, even finding out the titles or looking at the cover art, which is very difficult to do when you are frequenting BookTube videos and BookTube channels. But I've mostly managed to avoid spoilers for anything as far as plots go. I believe this is going to be another Cosmere book because the end of The Gentleman's Guide to Medieval England, whatever that ridiculous long title was, I believe Sanderson's afterword in that book explained that it was the only one that was not somehow connected to the Cosmere. So I'm looking forward to more insane worlds, weird magic systems. If there was any complaint I had over Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, it was that the narrator voice kind of overpowered the narrative a bit and felt tonally incongruous at times. And so I'm hoping that this is not narrated by Hoyd, that it is, either first person or is a narrator that is not also a character in the story. So we don't have that issue of voice coming in and disrupting the flow of the narrative. Last one for the books I actually physically have right now is Violet by Scott Thomas. As soon as I read Kill Creek, I looked up the author's other work, and he's got, I think, 2 other novels besides this one that I want to take a look at because I enjoyed Kill Creek so much. It was an excellent blend of the horror with a bit of the genre, different literary genre exploration. Violet is another horror book that is about a person whose imaginary friend as a kid might not be so imaginary, might have some sort of nefarious purpose. They go back to their home town, I think, or back to their home, like their old house, and that's where the troubles begin. I will say that the book here, the edges are all like very like uneven cut. It gives it that kind of like I don't know, gives it kind of a unfinished quality to it, like something you would find abandoned in a house or something. And I'm curious if that is purposeful. But again, I was just so impressed with Scott Thomas, my first outing with his writing, that as soon as I found this in the bookstore, I picked it up, and I'm looking forward to taking a look at this as well. Another book that I know I'm going to be picking up this month is going to be Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. It is the last book in the Cytoverse series. I reread all of the Cytoverse late last year. I recently watched a video over on Sam Harrison's channel in which he was reviewing the very first book in the series, and it reignited my passion for it and reminded me of how amazing the series is, how much I enjoyed it. I immediately went out and bought the Cytoverse box. They still had copies over on Dragonsteel, and I'm going to be reading the short story, the initial short story, Defending Elysium, that I have not ever read before, as well as I plan on making a Treasure Tomes video for the Cytoverse before Defiant comes out. And then I will be picking up and reading Defiant this month. I believe it comes out on the 21st. I'll have to look at the date. I know it's later into the month, but I'll make sure that I pick that up and get that read. So that'll be all the fiction books that I look at this month. I have one nonfiction. Again, I think this came up on another list. This is Don't Call Me Crazy, 33 Voices begin the talk on mental health. So this is all just essays by prominent authors, one of which was S.J. Jones, who I recently reviewed her novel Zara. It's part of the reason why I picked this book up. It had to do with the Magical Readathon and some of the requirements for the reading challenges there. So I've read her entry in this book, and I'd like to go ahead and read the remainder of it. I think my plan is probably going to be to read a couple a day throughout the month, rather than just trying to sit down and read the entire collection of essays in one go. So I'll probably get that started tomorrow, and then just keep up with it for the rest of the month so that I can get through this along with all the fiction titles. October was a really important month, a very exciting month, because I finally got through all my volumes of One Piece. I am up to date with what's been released stateside for One Piece, and I am going to start filming content for One Piece. It is my favorite piece of fiction, not just my favorite manga, not just my favorite comic. It is my favorite story, full stop. And so I'm very happy that I finally caught up and got through Wano, and I've seen Gear 5 and can talk about all these exciting new developments that are going on. But it does mean that I no longer have a bunch of manga to fall back on to keep up with my personal challenge of trying to read a book, on average, one book a day. This month I have some comics that I pulled out. I'm sure I'm just going to be grabbing things off the shelf that I've not taken a look at yet. If I can find iShield 21 number 26, I think is what I'm missing. I think my school library has it. And if I can find that, then I can also finish up iShield this month. So that might be another place where I can continue to make sure that I'm reading every day. But here are some comics that I pulled out that I would like to read. So I've got Paper Girls 1 through 4. I've started this story before. I think I got I know for sure that I read through volume 1. I think I finished volume 2 as well, but we have the first 4 volumes, and so I know there's new material. I know there's material here that I've not taken a look at yet. That's a very interesting story, very weird sci-fi elements. There's a mystery going on. I really liked it. It was just that at some point it got away from me and some other things took precedent, and I have not circled back around to it. Like many of the comic book series that I end up reading, I kind of fall out of it and fall back into it. We also have Blue Lock 8 and 9, which is where I'm currently at in the series. I've been trying to hold off on these until my wife reads them. It's a soccer manga, but kind of a very, very heavy on the shonen aspect of it. The training part of a shonen manga. And so like these ridiculous challenges, these high stake games, it's been a very entertaining ride. And I know at some point, because we've read a little bit about where the story goes eventually, I know some point they're going to get out of this training facility, out of Blue Lock. And so it'll be interesting to see how the characters continue to develop. The team dynamic that was built up in the very beginning part of the book has kind of fallen apart already, and we're establishing new teams and new groups. And so it's a lot of fun having these characters whose personalities have already been developed. You have a little bit about their background and their struggles, their interpersonal relationships, and then seeing those same characters have to play off of other characters that they haven't had to interact with yet. So that's another really cool aspect of the book that I'm looking forward to exploring. I've also picked up a lot of Go-Go Loser Ranger that I've not read yet. So I've got 4, 5, 6, and 7. I have no idea where this story is going to go. I feel like this is one of the manga that is very plot heavy, very dense with its prose and its use of character powers to do interesting things and do unexpected things. And so I'm looking forward to where that's heading. I really like the deconstruction of the Sentai series, the Super Sentai or the Power Rangers tropes kind of reversed, turned on their heads, where the Ranger team are the villains and the monsters are not good people. They're not the good guys. They are our POV characters, and they are the ones who our sympathies are mostly supposed to lie with. So it's been interesting seeing that dynamic turned on its head, where you are rooting for the monster to overcome these clearly much more powerful hero characters who are not very heroic. So it's been another really interesting read. Finally, the last one I grabbed for this quick overview of the month is the Blue Beetle Jaime Reyes collection. So I read Blue Beetle back in college, which would have been like 2004, 2005, somewhere in there is when I started reading this. I loved the initial run of Blue Beetle. One of the reasons why I enjoy Miss Marvel so much is I believe it was hitting a lot of the same feelings I got from this run of Blue Beetle. And they released this collection of the original, I think it's going to be the initial 24. Yeah. So this has 1 through 12, and the second volume has 13 through 24, I think. And that is exactly what I want to pick up. That's what I want to collect as far as Blue Beetle goes, because the initial writers on here, the very first writers, had a very strong plot going through here. I can still remember some of the surprises and some of the ways that these seemingly random stories at the beginning were actually building toward something larger, and I found that incredible. I thought it was great character work, and I'm hoping that it all holds up, that me rereading it now, because I know going back and reading something that you've read in college or that you've read years ago, your attitude could completely be different. Your outlook has changed since then. And so I know it can hit different. And I'm hoping that I still get some of the same feelings I did the first time I read through Blue Beetle. So I'm very excited about this one as well. That's my list. It's not a comprehensive list of what I will read this month. There are almost certainly going to be more comics that I'm going to pull, but it's a good start. I do feel like doing these TBRs, doing these wrap-up videos, talking about some of these books has really encouraged me to keep up with my Goodreads challenge, and I look forward to talking to you later about what I read this month. I hope that your reading journey is going well, as always. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. What are you reading in November? I know there are some readathons going on for this month. I saw someone doing like a Cryptid Readathon, someone doing nonfiction November. So are you participating in any readathons this month? Is there anything that you would recommend for the end of the year? Or is there something coming up in December that I might jump into as far as readathons go? Let me know in the comments below. And until the next one, take care.